Sergei Diaghilev said, "Of all the wonders that the world had to offer, only art promised immortality. This world is a wonder by itself, because if you think about the vastness of our universe, you will surely be amazed. Hidden gems and cultures are ever being discovered throughout the world. A simple breath of fresh air or the musky scent of the soil aroma just before rainfall can all be considered wonders. But over the years, as humans explored and made discoveries to better understand our past and the extent of our civilization, historians have unveiled numerous masterpieces found all over the world, ranging from the Stone Age period to modern-day civilization. The respective findings can be framed to tell the story of the history of high culture, epitomized by the 7 wonders of the world. The wonders reveal how the beauty of art and history from the Eastern Mediterranean have been lost over time and reduced to dust through either natural or man-made causes. The wonders of the world can be classified into 3 historical ages: the Ancient Age, the Middle Age, and the Modern Age. Obviously, the original historical list was compiled in 200 BC by Philon of Byzantium, a Greek scientist and mathematician, together with other historians and researchers. He traveled to the Mediterranean and Middle East regions and explored different artistic conventions and architectural marvels. His initial list inspired the other ages that came after the 19th and 20th century, but this video will solely focus on the Ancient Age. Great Pyramid of Giza, Egypt. The first on the list is the oldest of the 7 wonders, the Pyramids of Egypt at Giza. It is the largest Egyptian pyramid in the Giza complex, built over 4,000 years ago. It was a tomb built for the 4th dynasty of Pharaoh Khufu, standing at 481 feet from the ground, built from 2.5 million bricks and limestone in a span of 27 years. The Egyptians believed in the afterlife. Therefore, the pyramids were built around a pharaoh's mummified body, surrounding them with their luxurious possessions so that they can continue to use them in their afterlife. Smaller pyramids were built around the main one to house their wives and staff, who supposedly would help them navigate their lives in the hereafter. It is still unclear as to the detail of how they were made. Due to their complex architectural nature, they must have required technology that simply had not been invented yet. It is believed that it took over 100,000 laborers working tirelessly to build the other pyramids. It is interesting how the construction of the pyramids proved the architecture was ahead of its time because of the construction of the cornerstones, which were built to withstand earthquakes and tremors by using the ball and socket construction method. The pyramids at Giza continue to be a wonder for historians as research continues. Statue of Zeus at Olympia. The second wonder of the ancient world was the statue of Zeus, located at Olympia, home of the Olympian Games in Greece. It was housed in a building designed by the architect Liban in 450 BC, and the statue covered most of it with Zeus's head almost brushing the ceiling. Considered holy and in reverence to the god, the citizens hosted Olympian Games every 4 years on the premises. Spectators and players would come from across Greece and abroad to participate. The first game took place in 776 BC. The games included both athletics and ball sports, and the games would involve sacrifices and gifts to honor Zeus. The winner would be crowned with olive leaves, and other prizes would be given. Although the games eventually fell into obscurity in ancient times, they were revived in the 1800s and became the Olympic Games we know today that are hosted every 4 years. The Athenian sculptor Phidia was commissioned to design the sculpture inside the Temple of Zeus, depicting him sitting on a decorative wooden throne. The body was made from ivory, while his robe, garments, and jewels were sculpted from gold. The statue was about 12.4 meters tall, and in his right hand he held Nike, the goddess of victory, while his left held a scepter topped with an eagle. Unfortunately, the statue does not stand as tall today. After Emperor Theodosius II banned the games in 426 BC, the temple was closed, and due to earthquakes and fire, the statue was completely destroyed. But its memory endured. a testament to this wonder. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon. The ancient Hanging Gardens of Babylon are also one of the ancient 7 wonders of the world. The Greek and Roman authors paint a clear and marvelous picture of the luxurious garden. Despite the conflicting descriptions, it is claimed that in ancient Babylon there existed a 75-foot-high garden with lush vegetables and flowers cascading down the terraces of the palace. The aroma wafting from the exotic plants filled the whole region with a rich fragrance. The beautiful flowers blossomed, dazzling the eyes and festooning the statues and tall stone pillars with vibrant colors. With its existence still debated by historians, there is a chance that the gardens are but a mere legend passed from generation to generation. But if the stories are true, imagine a 4-story palace in square form, cascading from top to bottom with a large entryway of stairs pulling up to the topmost terrace. Exotic herbs and vegetation adorn the walls and balconies, giving the illusion of a rainforest in a warm, arid climate. Truly splendid. Built by Nebuchadnezzar II, the gardens were a gift to his wife, Amytis, in 450 BC, in order to mirror her beloved homeland of what would be modern northwestern Iran. Strangely, the same mythology is described by authors claiming the same gesture was performed in Nineveh by Sennacherib between 705 and 681 BCE. Regardless, the irrigation system employed for the garden was ahead of its time because the plants remained green throughout the season. Canals spanning 50 kilometers from the mountains to each plant were channeled by ducts built from waterproof cement and automatic sluice gates. Their engineering must have been a sight to behold and deserves to be appreciated as a wonder of the world. The Temple of Artemis at Ephesus. Number 4 would be the Temple of Artemis at Ephesus, modern-day Selcuk in Turkey, to honor one of the 3 maiden goddesses of Olympus, Artemis. Also known as the Temple of Diana, the goddess honored was the daughter of Zeus and Leto, goddess of the moon and hunt, and twin sister of Apollo. It was first built in 800 BC, but was destroyed by a flood, prompting its reconstruction in 550 BC, which took about 10 years. The second temple was built 4 times larger than the original one, and at the same site. The temple was destroyed a second time by an arsonist, Herostratus, in 356 BC, to make himself famous. On the same day, Alexander the Great was born. This is an interesting fact to note, considering the coincidence of what comes later. Unfortunately for Herostratus, the plan backfired on him because he was sentenced to death, and everyone was forbidden from mentioning his name ever, or they will be put to death also. Albeit history clearly shows that someone mentioned it later. Years later, Alexander the Great visited the temple and offered to pay to have it rebuilt, but his offer was declined by the Ephesians because he demanded the Temple of Artemis to be named after him. After his death, the third reconstruction of the temple began in 323 BC, and as before, it was built bigger and grander than the previous one. It was 450 feet long by 220 feet wide, standing 60 feet tall, with at least 127 columns, going down in history as the first building to be constructed of marble. The Ephesians enjoyed using the temple as a place of worship, as well as a marketplace for about 600 years, appearing several times in the New Testament Bible, and it was destroyed again by the Goths in 268 AD. The Ephesians really valued this temple because it was rebuilt yet again, only to be destroyed during a religious war between the followers of Artemis and the followers of Saint John Chrysostom, who tore the temple down finally in 401 AD. Following his victory, the events caused a mass conversion of the Ephesians to Christianity, putting an end to the cult of Artemis. Some remnants of the temple have been reused to build a church in Istanbul, while some were shipped to the British Museum in London. The Mausoleum at Halicarnassus. The Mausoleum of Halicarnassus, just as the name suggests, is a tomb created for the wealthy ruler of Caria, Mausolus. He was the heir of his father's kingdom, and he became more successful than his father, conquering most of the territory in southwestern Asia Minor. When the king died in 353 BC, his sister and wife, Artemisia, sent out word to Greece that she was willing to pay any price to have the best architects help her design and build the tomb. Finally, Greek architects Pythias and Satyrus were commissioned to build the tomb, which would be in the honor of King Mausolus, and would go down in history as one of the largest tombs to be built. The grand size contributed to its addition to the 7 wonders of the world, and the king's name inspired the English word mausoleum. The tomb, located in modern-day Bodrum, Turkey, drew motivation from the Nereid monuments of Xanthos, but to a grander scale, built on a tall square podium. There were statue stone lions guarding the stairway up to the tomb. The building was 40 meters tall, and the bottom third section was made of solid marble. 36 Greek columns stood above the tomb. Then a pyramid was erected on top of them, providing a surface for the statues that were placed at the top. The stone statues of Mausolus and Artemisia at the top were located side by side next to a chariot with 2 horses. Artemisia did not live long enough to see the completion of the tomb. She died 2 years after her husband, but the builders stayed on course and completed the biggest mausoleum to ever exist. The Mausoleum of Halicarnassus stood for over 17 centuries, surviving the terrorizing of Alexander the Great and pirate attacks that were common because the town stood next to a port. Unfortunately, a series of earthquakes hitting the area in 1404 AD ruined and crashed the columns and foundations, leaving the base as the only recognizable structure. The remaining whole parts of the mausoleum were ravaged by the Crusaders. Although the mausoleum did not survive until modern days, it is still considered one of the longer-lasting 7 wonders of the world. The Colossus of Rhodes. Another historical wonder from ancient Greece, the Colossus of Rhodes. 3 city-states from Greece united to form one region, with Rhodes culminating to be the capital of the 3 cities in 408 BC. Rhodes established itself and became economically powerful while growing its trade links across the Mediterranean. As a result, it gained the status of a powerful city, allowing more trade unions to form, including that of their strongest allies from Egypt, Ptolemy I Soter. Political rivals from Macedonia, the Antigonids, clashed with Rhodes, fearing it might take over their business territories and possibly be the main base of operations in the region. Therefore, Antigonus sent his son, Demetrius, to invade and seize Rhodes and sever the alliance, with 200 ships, 4,000 men, and 150 auxiliary vessels in tow. With this much power, their victory was inevitable. Fortunately, Rhodes had erected a strong wooden tall tower, armed with catapults that acted as the main protection for the city. After a battle that lasted a year, finally Demetrius abandoned the siege, and a peace treaty was signed in 304 BC, on the condition that Rhodes would remain neutral in the battle between them and Egypt. Additionally, Demetrius and his army left behind their weapons and armory as a celebration of victory and them embracing the peace agreement. After several years, some of the weapons were sold, while others had their metal melted down and combined with other valuable metals, 15 tons of bronze and 9 tons of iron, all used to erect the statue. The statue erected was in honor of the sun god Helios. It was designed by Charles of Lindos, who initially sculpted the skeleton from iron. Then the metal plates were placed on top of it. It took 12 years to complete, but upon its completion, it stood on the gates of the harbor at approximately 110 feet high, on a 50-foot pedestal of stone. Everyone entering the city would marvel as they passed below the statue that covered the whole entrance. 26 years after its erection, an earthquake hit the Mediterranean Sea, and part of the statue weakened and fell into the waves. Unfortunately, the remains could not be retrieved, and most of the builders who were involved in the construction had already died off. The citizens, however, remained loyal, and they continuously visited the statue to pay their respects to the god, despite millions of pieces cast into the sea. The final destruction of the Colossus of Rhodes happened 56 years after its erection, when the Arabs invaded Rhodes and dismantled it. To understand the magnitude of how big the statue was, it took about 900 camels to transport the remains. The massive size of the statue earned its spot on the 7 wonders of the world for its magnificent construction that remains a mystery as to how the Dorians could build such a great statue. The Lighthouse of Alexandria. So efficient and impressive were the building efforts of the ancient Egyptians that they boast 2 sites among the 7 wonders of the world. Apart from the Great Pyramid of Giza, Pharaoh's Lighthouse of Alexandria earns its spot by becoming the archetype of all subsequent lighthouses. The brilliant and magnificent lighthouse sat on a small island called Pharos, off the coast of Alexandria. It was crowned the tallest building in the world until 1889, when the Eiffel Tower was completed. The lighthouse was commissioned during the reign of Ptolemy I and completed during the reign of his son, Ptolemy II, between 280 and 247 BC. The architect was a powerful man called Sostratus of Cnidus. He initially requested of the king to allow him to inscribe his own name on the tower, but the king refused. Being the stubborn man that he was, he insisted on including his name underneath the concrete, and then inscribed the king's name on top. Over time, Ptolemy's inscription started peeling away, leaving the below inscription, Sostratus of Cnidus, son of Dexaphanus, to the savior gods for sailors. It stood 515 feet tall, with a total of 800 talents of silver used in its construction, totaling 3 levels. A reflective mirror was used during the day to shine a light on the navigators as a guidance system, while at night, a big fire visible for over 100 miles was lit as guidance. It is still a wonder how the massive fire never cracked the stonework of the building. Consecutive earthquakes that occurred over time started to partially damage the building until 1323, when it finally collapsed fully due to an earthquake originating from the Greek island of Crete. What remained was brought down by the Sultan of Egypt in 1480, which was later discovered during an excavation. The Pharaoh's Lighthouse of Alexandria earned its spot in the list of 7 wonders due to its complex construction and the enterprise employed, resulting in the tallest lighthouse that ever existed.